He is the face of compassion, the icon of non-violence. But what happens when the 14th Dalai Lama is no more? He was just 2 years old when he was recognized as the reincarnation of a spiritual leader. By 5, he sat on a throne. By 24, he was forced to flee his homeland. A young monk carrying centuries of Tibetan hope on his back. This year, the 14th Dalai Lama turns 90. A symbol of peace in a world increasingly defined by conflict. A spiritual giant in an era of political cynicism, an exile who became a global icon. But even as the world celebrates his compassion, difficult questions loom. What happens after him? Can his message and his lineage survive the pressures of geopolitics, exile, and time? This isn't just a spiritual transition, it's a geopolitical inflection point. This is not just the story of one man growing old. This is the story of a people holding on to identity and a spiritual succession now caught in the crosshairs of international power.
Why does the Chinese government fear you?
Some Chinese officials describe me as a demon. So naturally, some fear about demon. So I immediately respond, yes, I have home.
Before he was a global icon, before the robes, the speeches, the Nobel Prize, he was just a boy born in a small village called Taktser, northeastern Tibet. In 1935, a 2-year-old child named Lamo Thondup was recognized as the 14th incarnation of the Dalai Lama, the spiritual and political leader of Tibet. This recognition occurred after the death of the 13th Dalai Lama, Tibetan Gyatso, who passed away in 1933. In February 1940, by the age of 4, he was enthroned in the Potala Palace, the ancient seat of the Dalai Lama in Lhasa. He was no longer Lamo, but had been given the spiritual name Jetsun Jampel Gawang Lobsang Yeshet Tenzin Gyatso, often shortened to Tenzin Gyatso, which means the ocean of wisdom. By age 6, his monastic education started. He had 5 major and 5 minor subjects, including Buddhist philosophy, Sanskrit, art, culture, and medicine. But beyond his spiritual role, a political storm was building. In 1950, just 15 years old, the young Dalai Lama was called upon to lead Tibet as China invaded. For 9 years he tried negotiation, dialogue, and diplomacy, but by 1959 the threat was undeniable. In the dead of night, disguised as a soldier, the Dalai Lama escaped across the Himalayas, a perilous 2-week journey through snow, fear, and uncertainty. He arrived in India, an exile, but not alone. With the support of India, he established the Tibetan government in exile in Maklodganj, Dharamshala. This small town would become the new heart of the Tibetan struggle.
The situation of Tibet, the Chinese communist propaganda create very rosy picture. But actually, including many Chinese from mainland China who visit Tibet, they all had the impression things are terrible.
In exile he chose not war, but wisdom, not retaliation, but resilience. In 1989, the world recognized his path of peace.
I now call upon your holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama. Will you please enter the podium and receive the Nobel Peace Prize?
He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, not just for his advocacy for Tibet, but for offering humanity a spiritual mirror.
This is my favorite prayer. Daily I pray this. That gives me inner strength. So enthusiasm to serve sentient being, humanity on this one. As long as space remains, and as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and help dispel the
Man is gone. More than 60 years have passed since the Dalai Lama crossed into India, but the journey of exile has never truly ended for his people. Thousands followed him, monks, families, and nomads. They came with little but their faith and the dream that one day they would return. In the hills of northern India, the exile capital of McLeodganj, Dharamshala became a sanctuary. A place where a government in exile took shape, and a shattered identity slowly pieced itself back together.
We never saw Tibet, but we carry the torch of the Tibetan culture and the Tibetan spirit. And more importantly now, through pure guidance and advice and the love and affection of His Holiness, the radiance of His Holiness. Now today, I personally feel more as a world citizen than as a citizen of one particular country.
Exile doesn't need to mean erasure. In the case of Buddhism, it means reinvention. From the foothills of the Himalayas to the cafes of New York and the monasteries of Kathmandu. Tibetan Buddhism has not only survived, it has flourished worldwide.
All across the world, we just starting off the Year of Compassion, which starts from 6th of July this year till next year, and it's to honor His Holiness's 90th. So 9 decades of long life on peace, advocacy, Tibetan Buddhism, and also very focusing on Tibet advocacy, basically.
Even though he is 90 years old, but he's very active and he's already doing what he used to do, meeting with the audiences from around the world. And I think he's going to live for more years. Like he always says, he's going to live like 130 and more than that. So for us, it's not an old age.
Tibet, without His Holiness, we can't imagine. Our existence is because of him, especially in the exile community and or diaspora. Whereas if I talk about the global, on the diaspora and the global world, I think his compassion, his message on the humanity, human right, his message towards everything, I think mostly admired by the world leaders.
For the younger generation, many of whom have never set foot in Tibet, identity is a delicate thread, woven through language classes, spiritual retreats, and activist movements. Education has become a pillar of resistance. Institutions like the Tibet House in New Delhi have nurtured generations of scholars, artists and activists. It integrates laypersons as well as scholars of many disciplines. Founded by the Dalai Lama in 1965, this center works to preserve and disseminate Tibetan and Buddhist teachings, offering a master's course in Tibetan Buddhism.
When people from outside, when they come down to Mashnugutila, we somehow show our culture in a way. Like you can see ladies wearing chupa, you can see monks going here and there. So, we also have shops where they sell Tibetan spiritual stuffs, paintings and other stuffs. So basically, we are showing our culture to people. And when we show our culture, that keeps our Tibetanness in us alive.
Displacement may have taken their land, but not their laughter, not their memory. From monastery rooftops to university campuses, Tibet lives not as a nation defined by borders, but as a culture defined by resilience. At its heart is a quiet, collective determination to preserve what was nearly lost until the day it can return home. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is said, death is not the end. It is a transition. For centuries, the passing of a great Lama has marked not closure, but continuity. At the heart of this belief is the Tulku system, a tradition where revered teachers like the Dalai Lama are believed to return again and again to guide the world. This search for a reincarnated Lama is guided by visions, oracles, sacred rituals, and spiritual intuition. Elders look for signs, they test children. This process is deeply sacred and central to Tibetan Buddhism. But now, a centuries-old tradition stands at a crossroads. The Chinese government insists it has the final say over reincarnations of High Lamas, including the next Dalai Lama. Through an 18th century ritual called the Golden Urn system, Beijing claims that legitimacy comes not from monks or mysticism, but from the state.
The reincarnation of the Dalai Lama must adhere to the principle of domestic search, golden urn draw, and approval by the central government, and be handled in accordance with religious rituals, historical customs, and national laws and regulations.
For Beijing, the succession of the Dalai Lama is not a spiritual matter. It is a political opportunity, a way to solidify their grip over Tibet.
Well, we still as a refugee. Then my reincarnation logically will come outside Tibet.
He even then raised the possibility that the lineage could end with him. This opens up the door to a spiritual and geopolitical showdown. Two Dalai Lamas, one chosen freely by Tibetan monks, another installed by the Chinese Communist Party. And yet, this power struggle isn't just theoretical, it has already begun. Quietly, decades ago, with the disappearance of one child and a battle over who gets to recognize whom. In the next chapter, we look at the case that set this conflict in motion, the missing Panchen Lama. In 1995, the Dalai Lama identified a 6-year-old boy named Gedun Choeki Nyima as the 11th Panchen Lama, the second highest spiritual figure in Tibetan Buddhism. It was a quiet declaration, but it echoed all the way to Beijing. Just 3 days after the announcement, the boy vanished. He was taken by Chinese authorities. Since then, no one outside China has seen him.
Had it been that Panchen Lama is still alive, then His Holiness's the endeavors, efforts would have been way more easier.
China responded swiftly. They named their own Panchen Lama, a boy raised under state control, groomed for official functions and photo ops. But among Tibetans, he is not accepted, not by people in Tibet, nor in exile. The controversy isn't just about who the Panchen Lama is, it's about why he matters. Historically, the Panchen Lama has played a crucial role in recognizing the next Dalai Lama, and vice versa. It is a sacred cycle, one guiding the other across lifetimes. The abduction of Gedun Choeki Nyima wasn't just a disappearance. Tibetans believe it was a preemptive strike on a future that had not yet arrived. The boy chosen by the Dalai Lama remains missing. He would be 35 years old, and since he has not been seen in public since he was a little boy, we don't know for sure what he looks like today, but there is speculation of what he might look like now. His fate is unknown. His silence is a symbol of how fragile spiritual freedom has become under China's authoritarian power. And yet the Tibetan people continue to wait, not for permission, but for the truth. As the Dalai Lama turns 90 years old, he still carries the weight of 1,000 years of tradition on his shoulders, and now he is preparing to pass it on. In a move that has stunned both his followers and his political adversaries, His Holiness has announced the creation of a non-profit institution he has set up, a body that will oversee the sacred process of choosing his successor.
다달라메 가서 다 영시사디 지 지주기 미 로마즈 지미기 다네 다디 영시 고도스네 타셔요나 때 다가 타셔서 버다 경호군이 너림 문지 제조 대 자동만 나세신 영시 문지기 제그 경구소 달라라메 라장 간대포장 이지계 이지계제 왕대 겐진 남도 여보다.
This isn't just a spiritual gesture, it's a declaration of independence, a way to ensure that Tibet's sacred traditions are not rewritten by state power. With the formation of this trust, the Dalai Lama has effectively declared that Tibetan reincarnation will remain Tibetan, not political property.
His Holiness, it is his mind which travels, and mind nobody can control except himself. He made it very clear, the outcome I'll come, but the procedure is to be like this. He made the procedure. He explained the procedure. Nobody can interfere in this procedure. It should not be politicized. This keyword. It cannot be politicized, and it should not be politicized, and it cannot be politicized. So therefore, His Holiness made it very clear, I'll come. But how it should happen is to be decided by the trust.
Just before his 90th birthday, he announced that he would have a successor to carry forward his legacy. There are clear signals of China determined to get its own say, and tensions on the issue are heating up further.
There is no traditional kind of restriction. Dalai Lama should be born in Tibet. Dalai Lama born in Mongolia, the third one, and Dalai Lama born today in India, the sixth Dalai Lama. And there's no nationality or geographical boundary.
His Holiness reincarnation will be born in a free world. And India obviously is a very likely choice for His Holiness, because there has to be a relation between the parents and the community. There should be a master-student relationship. If His Holiness is reborn in India, which is very likely, it is too early right now. So for His Holiness to leave any signs or messages regarding his next life, it will come only when the time is right.
As the man who once held the title prepares to depart, the question of succession is no longer about just one figure. It is about a generation stepping forward. Whatever happens next, one truth endures. The future of Tibetan Buddhism will not be determined by borders, but by belief, by memory, and by the courage to protect what is chosen by prophecy, then a refugee, then a global teacher. Now at 90, he is preparing for what comes next, not with fear, but with clarity. His legacy continues in every act of compassion, in every community that refuses to forget, and in every voice that chooses kindness over cruelty. His Holiness may one day be gone, but the world he helped shape, more mindful, more courageous, more connected, will carry his spirit forward.